And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, let's get right to the breaking news this morning that the FBI is currently in the middle of raiding LAUSD Superintendent Alberto Carvalho's home in San Pedro, his office at LAUSD headquarters, and apparently his old office in Miami.
Well, good morning, number one.
And because this was an action that was done by the FBI, you know that a judge somewhere gave them a warrant. Now, I know we're dealing with LAUSD here, so none of them could read it, but they definitely had one.
Now, we don't know any information as to what this is about. The search warrant is under seal. But that being said, Johnny, how excited do you think Cecily Meyer-Cruz is?
And I want you to be all the way pissed off.
Well, she must have been a good little girl this year because Christmas came early for her.
Get that money.
For more on what we know right now and the FBI raid of Alberto Carvalho, the superintendent of the nation's second largest school district, here's Fox 11 and Gigi Graciette.
Breaking news right now, the FBI has raided LA Unified Superintendent Alberto Carvalho's home and LAUSD headquarters.
Gigi Graciette live with the very latest. Gigi.
That's right.
Now, as far as we know, even though FBI raids in California do kind of have a similar ring, we don't know that Carvalho has any association with the dongs.
No. In fact, I would assume that he has no association with the dongs.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
That's right, and we can confirm that FBI agents are here at LA Unified headquarters in downtown Los Angeles right now in an apparently very covert operation as they serve a search warrant on what they say is an address and not necessarily a person, actually on two addresses. Let's start with a confirmation that we received from the FBI this morning and take a look in.
You don't think this was like the Shang raid where they knocked on his door really early in the morning and he still hadn't put his clothes on?
Oh, God, I hope not.
You know, that's what a mayor do.
Shang, you didn't have a bra on yet.
Well, based on the emails that we get late at night on this program, there are plenty of guys out there who would have volunteered for that raid.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In writing, they said, quote, "We can confirm that the FBI is serving a court-authorized warrant. However, the affidavit in support of the warrant has been sealed by the court, and we therefore have no further comment." The Department of Justice, which oversees the FBI, also basically saying the same thing, that they are serving a warrant, but a judge has signed that warrant, so it is sealed.
And you got to remember, when it comes to motions like this in FBI raids, these are usually cases that are built over a matter of years. So whatever they are looking into, they've been looking into for a long time.
And you also have to think about the nature of what is a federal crime compared to what is a state crime. If you shoot someone and kill someone, that is a state crime, and typically your local district attorney will be the one to file charges against you. Where the feds come into play, typically, not always, but typically, are when a crime is financial in nature. That's when wire fraud and banking fraud and those sorts of things come into play. That's what happened with the dongs. That's what happened with Shang. Whenever you steal money or you receive money that doesn't belong to you and you do it through a wire or a banking account, those sorts of things, the feds have purview over that. They're the ones that look into those crimes. So on the face of it, I would assume that this has something to do with finances if it's the feds that are leading the investigation. That being said, that's just speculation. We have no clue what this is about.
Yeah, usually we wait for a story to have a little more information before we bring it to you, but this is huge, and I can't even tell you how many people have emailed us or messaged it on social media like, hey, did you see this?
Well, this has some meat on the bones because a judge signed off on a warrant and they executed a search. Typically, If it's just speculation or people chattering online accusing him of some kind of crime or whatever, we wouldn't touch it. But if a judge signed off on a warrant, it's a legit story to cover.
And we cannot get the details on exactly what federal agents are looking for. I want to go to our Eye in the Sky, Skyfox in San Pedro right now over the superintendent's home. This is Superintendent Alberto Carvalho. We see a lot of vehicles.
Okay, I've never heard anyone pronounce it Carvalho, but, maybe that's how it is, because Cecily always calls him Carvalho.
Well, she's also screaming it and talking like a pro wrestler.
We demand higher pay.
Oh, I'm sure you do. By the way, this is all happening at the same time that the LAUSD teachers union is threatening to strike.
Boy, the news just gets better and better for him, doesn't it?
We see a lot of vehicles there. The FBI usually uses private vehicles, undercover vehicles with no visible signage. So we don't know if agents are there, if they've been there, or they are planning to go there. Most likely, since we are already learning about it, they have already been there or are there currently. But again, my sources inside LA Unified tell me the FBI agents are here right now. The superintendent has an office on the 24th floor. It's a very private floor. You must be escorted into his office. I was told that.
Now, as far as we know, because you mentioned the difference between state cases and federal cases, we know that usually it's not a federal crime when we're talking about like physical abuse.
That's correct. Yeah, usually if you were to do something like, let's say, I don't know, a child got out of line and he punched the kid in the face, that would be a state crime. That would not be a federal crime. It is a federal crime if it's child pornography and images cross state lines. That would get on the radar of the feds.
But as far as we know, it's not a federal crime for the emotional abuse that Carvalho has suffered at the hands of Cecily Mayart Cruz.
In the rain!
That is true.
the superintendent has an office on the 24th floor.
Can you imagine what it's like going to bed the day before sitting across the negotiating table from her?
I don't think you sleep at all.
The superintendent has an office on the 24th floor. It's a very private floor. You must be escorted into his office. I was told this is a very private and covert operation. They did not want word to get out that these warrants were being served today. They wanted to keep it as low-key as possible.
And they have, because I haven't heard a damn thing about anything going on with Carvalho.
No, and typically, we're not trying to brag here. We just talk to people who report on these things. We talk to people who work for City Hall, work in county government, work in state government. If someone's being investigated by the locals or the feds, we usually know about it. Sometimes we'll leave hints here and there when we talk about certain politicians when we know that something's in the works. And then when the story breaks and we find out that the person is being charged with a crime, it's no surprise to us. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know when. I have not heard that Alberto Carvalho is corrupt in any way. I have not heard that Alberto Carvalho was being investigated in any way. I know that he gets rolled by the teachers' unions. I know that he came from Miami. I know that he has bought into the woke agenda. But outside of that, I haven't heard rumors that the guy is crooked. So this is all news to us.
Possible, but word is quickly spreading throughout Los Angeles. And once again, if you're just joining us here on Good Day LA, we can confirm that the FBI is serving warrants here at LA Unified. This is the second largest school district in the country, and also
one of the worst performing.
We've known that for a very long time.
At the home of Superintendent Alberto Carvalho. What they're looking for, the order, the affidavit is sealed by a judge, so no details are available. We are hoping, of course, to learn more. And yes, we have reached out to LA Unified for a comment and are awaiting word from them. Reporting live.
I think you're going to get a comment from Cecily before you get a comment from the school board.
Oh, I'm surprised she isn't out with one already.
Our babies.
Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Gigi Graciette. I'll send it back to you.
Right, the big question being, why is this warrant being served? What are they searching for? What are they investigating? All of that remains sealed, as you mentioned, Gigi, so we don't know the information as of yet, but we just know that the search is being conducted.
And it's also been reported that there's the search going on at LAUSD, the search going on at his home in San Pedro, and apparently in Miami, where he used to work.
So this could have something to do with actions taken as superintendent in the state of Florida that have nothing to do with his time in California as LAUSD superintendent.
That right now is everything we know about the FBI raid of LAUSD Superintendent Alberto Carvalho.
Now, if your mind is wandering and you're trying to think, what could it be that he allegedly did that would spark an investigation like this? None of us have any idea because we have no insider knowledge. And at this point, only the government knows, and maybe Carvalho, if he in fact is guilty of what they're going to allege. But just think about this for a second. Just think about, take him out of the equation. And just think that if you're a superintendent of a big city school district, whether it's here, Miami, wherever, in Los Angeles, right now, there are approximately over 500,000 students enrolled. About 550,000 students, give or take. That's way down from where they used to be. I think 900,000 was LAUSD at their peak. So enrollment is in decline. Actually, it's in free fall. The number of employees they have is a little over 83,000. That's all of them. That's the teachers, that's the principals, the vice principals, the bus drivers, the crossing guards, the substitutes, you name it, that's all of them. So you have 83,000 employees and you have 500,000 students. Think about every contract that must go through that district and how much it's worth. Every time they buy computers, every time they buy beef, every time they buy pencils, every time they buy erasers, whatever, those contracts are worth a fortune. It's life-changing money. When you open up a new school and you buy property, it's worth a lot of money. Think about the size of those schools. When you hire a construction firm to remodel a school or to build a school, those contracts are worth a fortune. If you do it on the up and up, it's just a lot of work to try to find the cheapest bid and to try to make sure that the taxpayers are getting their money's worth, which nobody does. If you're crooked and you can figure out ways to get kickbacks where some of that money finds its way back to you, or some of that money is used to hire your relatives or your spouse, or you know how that goes, then being able to dish out those contracts is something that is very valuable if you're not playing it straight. And that's the case for virtually anything in California. Any layer of government has similar aspects to it. If you're on the city council and you decide who gets the contracts at the airport or fill in the blank, it's worth a fortune. And that's why it's so important, more than partisanship or ideology or any of that, specifically when you're talking about local government, to get competent people who are ethical. If you get competent people who are ethical, it doesn't matter how much of a strong Republican you are or a strong Democrat you are. That is more important than anything else. Because when it comes to, let's say, water board, you need someone who knows something about water, and you need someone who's not going to use their position to enrich themselves. They're going to try to go there, and they're going to try to make sure that that water board is functioning and serving the people in that district. The same thing is true for school districts. You want someone who's going to make the trains run on time, make sure the kids know how to read, write, do math, and that the district is going to remain solvent and money is not going to be stolen. And a lot of it, because we're not aware of the internal details Who has time to pay attention to contracts that they sign or deals that they are engaged in? No one has time for that. You just have to trust them that they're playing it straight. And you have to make sure that the school board hires a superintendent who is an honest and ethical person. Because if they're not honest and they're not ethical, they can rob you blind. It'll be interesting to see what they're looking at with him. If it's something that allegedly happened in Miami, if it's something that allegedly happened in Los Angeles, if it's something that started in Miami and went on after he moved to Los Angeles, who knows at this point? None of us do. We can guess, but that's about it. We know that government in Los Angeles, which used to be, or California in general, one of the cleanest states in the union, we were designed that way, is now one of the most corrupt states in the union. Because that's what happens when you have one-party rule. When there's one-party rule and there's budget cuts in newsrooms, no one is minding the store. And when no one is minding the store, that's when people reach into the till. And right now, all we know is that there were search warrants executed on the superintendent of LAUSD, at the offices at LAUSD, and in Miami, which is where he worked before he moved to the state of California. Interesting story, and we'll all be paying attention to just exactly what the next chapter will bring us. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Chris writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but today is the nature boy Ric Flair's birthday.
Woo!
How about that? Ric Flair's birthday is on a Woo Wednesday.
It's Woo Wednesday.
Well, nature boy, have we got a present for you? A very special birthday singer is coming out of retirement just for you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Violet. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
And you know, Nate appreciated that. And Randy, you can listen to us in the Central Valley on the weekends.
How about this? We do this show 3 hours a day, 5 days a week on KABC in Southern California, KSFO in Northern California. And on Saturdays at noon, you can hear a special replay of the Fix California Hour on KMJ in Fresno, AM 580, 105.9 FM. And go to the website, kmjnow.com. It's the Fix California Hour replay, Saturdays at noon on KMJ.
But it's not just Southern California that's dealing with a potential issue involving corruption. So is the city and county of San Francisco.
And what do you know? We have yet again another example of the head of a nonprofit that has to do with homelessness in San Francisco getting charged with embezzlement.
Surprise, surprise.
For more on this, we go to NBC in the Bay Area.
The longtime head of a San Francisco nonprofit is facing 9 charges of embezzlement-related charges here. She's accused of misappropriating more than $2.5 million in public funds.
You want to know where all the homeless money goes? A lot more of it than you think goes towards nonsense like this, and it just gets straight up stolen.
And when I was on vacation, didn't some guy get handcuffed in Beverly Hills who was supposed to be running one of these groups too?
Oh, that did happen when you were on vacation. Yeah, he had a fancy home in Westwood. He had a second home in Greece, was sending his kids to private school, had a Range Rover. All of these things were paid for by the California and the Los Angeles County taxpayer. And by the way, this is great. This guy, he was a Karen Bass vendor for Inside Safe, and he was supposed to be providing 3 meals a day to the homeless inside the motels through his nonprofit called Abundant Blessings. And he ended up figuring out, if I just give them cheap ramen noodles in a microwave, well, I can pocket most of this money and cash in.
Yeah, good luck with that sodium, homeless.
You may remember Gwendolyn Westbrook from our story that our investigative unit exposed during the pandemic. She ran a city-sponsored trailer encampment at Hunters Point.
I am very glad, by the way, and this shows that even though there was so much grift being done during the lockdowns, people are still looking into it.
Oh, the amount of fraud that took place when we were spending huge sums of money and no one was minding the store was life-changing for any number of crooked people.
She ran a city-sponsored trailer encampment at Hunters Point designed to get homeless people off the streets and limit the exposure and spread of the virus.
So she's one of them, too.
So she got paid millions of dollars to take the bums that were in tents and put them in trailers, and she stole that money.
And mind you, if you ever want to cut any of this money, they will scream bloody murder and say that you were responsible for the homeless problem because you cut their budget.
Well, and what are the qualifications to even become a vendor for something like this? It feels like the vetting process for these nonprofits is either ill-equipped or just intentionally corrupt, because it's not just the person getting the check who signed the check.
Well, it just also goes to show you, when you have a legit organization, when you have the Midnight Mission, let's say, in downtown Los Angeles, they operate on a shoestring budget compared to some of these groups that get huge grants from the government. And they're happy to talk to you about their results. They're happy to introduce you to individuals whose lives they've changed. You can go down there and walk in and see what's going on with your own two eyes. And then you have all of these other groups that pop up right and left with political connections. They get the contracts, and they all live like Ellie Mae Clampett.
Westbrook was CEO of Unity Council of Human Services, the district attorney in the...
Typically, it comes in the name, too.
Westbrook was CEO of Unity Council of Human Services. The district attorney in the city claims investigators found more than $1 million in missing funds in Westbrook's bank accounts. They say the rest is still unaccounted for.
When you talk about millions of dollars being lost to that effort, that are taxpayer dollars, while every day we sit and deal with people who are still struggling on our streets.
I mean, you think about how cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles are in these huge budget deficits. How much money are we literally wasting on fraud?
Well, and then when you question them on the results not being there, they say, well, the problem is we're not spending enough. So they want to raise taxes on the taxpayers to give people like this more money.
Westbrook did not respond to a request for our comment today.
Joining us now with more details is our investigative reporter, Jackson Vanderbecken. And Jackson, why did the DA start looking into this case in the first place?
Well, I can tell you what happens here. Whether or not that's going to be the case in this particular situation, I don't know yet. But typically what happens is there's no honor among thieves. And this is why all criminal enterprises eventually go down. Because someone at the top of the food chain decides that they're going to take more than what was allotted to them, and they're going to take it from someone else in the criminal enterprise. Someone feels like they're getting the short end of the stick. They're not getting what they deserve. And so they become bitter and they become angry and they look for revenge. And if they can't find a way to topple the person at the top of the pyramid, what they do is they go to a reporter or they go to the cops and they say, this is what's going on. Go get them. That's how it happens.
Well, questions have surrounded this organization for some time. Back in 2009, the United Council for Human Services first raised red flags about their accounting practices. And what happened was that there was a string of city audits, and they found potential problems that triggered in their minds a potential criminal matter and referred the matter to both the San Francisco prosecutors and the FBI.
So we're learning they found about $1 million, but some is unaccounted for.
Well, she spent most of it.
Yeah, how do you get that money back if that money was spent at the French Laundry and places like that?
Or what if you have a massive gambling addiction and it's all in the coffers of some casino floor?
That's true.
Is unaccounted for, or a lot is still unaccounted for. What do prosecutors say Westberg allegedly did with this money?
Well, we're talking about $1.2 million that wound up in accounts that she had control over. Then there's another $1.4 million that is essentially missing. They don't know what happened to it, but it was all money.
No red flags get raised when you're wiring money from a nonprofit to someone's personal account in the terms of 7 figures.
And just think about this. It's not just organizations like this for the homeless. Right now, we're focusing on them because we're all dealing with people living on the streets and we're spending all this money and we're getting no results. But think about all of the other groups that potentially do the same thing. Groups like the one that Sheila Kuehl was aligned with that were supposed to root out sexual harassment on the MTA. And we found out that was a boondoggle. Think about all the community health clinics in your city, in your community that look shady as you know what. Think about those schools in Minnesota, the child care centers that have no children that are enrolled in them. Think about all of the fraud that's going on around you with all of these different groups that are politically connected, all of these groups that scream bloody murder whenever their budgets are cut, and they feel like they have you over a barrel. That if you challenge their budgets, if you cut their budgets, then you hate children, you hate the elderly, you hate the homeless, you hate this group or that group. And it is just a way to enrich themselves on taxpayer dollars. Yesterday, I made a remark about, or 2 days ago, when Ken Cuccinelli was on, we were talking about the situation in Mexico. And he said part of their problem down there is the addiction to socialism. If they could just kick the addiction to socialism, they would be prosperous. Yes, that is true. However, what brings socialism on for many governments is corruption. Because when you're corrupt, what you need is you need a constant influx of money. If there's no money, then you can't spread the money around to your cronies. So that means taxes can only go one way. Fees can only go one way. Fines can only go one way. It's got to go up and up and up and up and up because the longer you stay in power, the more people you have to take care of. That's how it works. And that's how it works in a corrupt place like California. Why are our taxes so much higher than everywhere else? Well, because we have to allow these people to live like they just won the lottery. And you can't take the money away from them because politically they're bulletproof. And the longer we remain as a one-party state, the more of these groups and these people that you just have to take care of. And then their kids start their splinter organization. And their friends and their coworkers start their splinter organization. And suddenly, you're paying for literally thousands of people, maybe even more than that, to live like kings.
That was set aside to help homeless people and wound up in places that they believe it shouldn't have been, spent on things like luxury vehicles, Louis Vuitton luggage.
You really got to stay under the radar if you're stealing. It's okay if you're it's not okay, but you're less likely to get attention if you go for the Honda Civic instead of the Tesla Cybertruck.
Yeah, if you want to live like that, you need to go become California insurance commissioner.
Luxury vehicles, Louis Vuitton luggage, more than $100,000 in jewelry.
This is money, again, that was supposed to help the homeless not get COVID by putting them in trailers.
No, this is when you know you're bulletproof and no one can touch your budget.
From a store who's two of their owners of that store are on the board for the United Council. So it's...
you look at the raid on Shangi and the Dong family. That was another grift that was connected to homeless spending because the Dong family put together this idea where they were going to sell reformatted shipping containers to cities like Oakland and San Leandro for $300,000 per unit, when it doesn't cost anywhere near that for a shipping container. A shipping container costs a couple $1,000s. So this is the grift that goes on.
And what you end up with also is a bias to make sure that the problem never goes away. Because if the problem goes away, so does your phony baloney organization, and the gravy train is over.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Now, she allegedly ran this nonprofit and includes that trailer park for unhoused people that she ran during the pandemic. Is that trailer park still in existence, or what happened to that?
No, the trailer park, actually, the trailers were sold off to the city of Oakland.
Of course.
Shangy, did you buy some trailers?
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
I love how they're connected to every story involving crime, corruption, and the like.
And it is no more there. It was on Pier 94. One of the problems was there was a next door site that was a crushing of cement and concrete, and that site is no longer occupied. So the dust that was a problem back during the pandemic for these residents is there are no more residents and there's no more dust.
Okay, Jackson Vanderbecken, keep us posted on this case. Thank you so much.
So there is the latest on yet another CEO of a homeless nonprofit in San Francisco getting busted for embezzling over $1 million.
Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Bobby in L.A. Bobby, welcome.
How are you guys?
Hi.
So you're not making, California's corrupt all the way through. And you're talking about the LAUSD guy. All the schools are corrupt. We got local schools that are just outside of the LA area that somebody on the school board was doing some shady stuff and got arrested for it. So it's all over. It's California.
Yeah, the combination of a one-party state with a press corps that doesn't report on the transgressions of the people in power, because then they'll get cut out of the information loop, is a really bad combination. And that's what we have here. And the corruption is so rampant, it's like calling holding in the NFL. You could do it on every play if you want to. You just pick and choose when you blow the whistle and throw the flag. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with large cities and large districts and large budgets, you're not talking about small potatoes. You're talking about a large amount of money.
Yeah, and it's absolutely ridiculous because the district that I work for had a pretty big thing going on, and everything just gets swept under the rug like, oh, that's just how it happens. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's very local to the LA area, and somebody was arrested for it, and then all of a sudden the police report didn't get done right. It's just, the whole thing's crazy. It's crazy,
right,
my friends. You guys keep your heads up. Be good.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Tom in Pacific Palisades. Tom, hello.
Hey, John. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say under the heading so much for expediting the building in the Palisades. About an hour and a half ago, I walk out of the job site of my trailer, and I see two parking enforcement cars. And there's nobody, as far as I can see, that lives. Construction is going on. And they said, you can't park on this side of the road. Now, I got my job, another job next door, another job down there. Each job probably takes, when a lot of subs are around, many, many trucks. But they said they had complaints from the mayor and the heads-to-be, and I don't get it. As Tom Hanks said in Big, I don't get it.
And the city, instead of bending over backwards to try to make it right for these people whose homes burned down due to their negligence, they're trying everything they can to slow down the process of rebuilding.
It's unbelievable. I had to ask the guy who's complaining, and the deer in the headlights. I don't know.
They don't care.
All right. That's it, man. Take care.
All right. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the update. We appreciate it. Let's go to Dan in Linwood. Dan, hello.
Yes. they're like anarchists of the bureaucracy. I'll give you an example. My neighbor who has a body shop got an $1,100 fine for maybe 2 or 3 cups of water that rolled out into the street from a little tiny wet sanding he was doing on a car. Yet across the street, you have the homeless that are all up and down Alameda, burning fires the sizes of the buses. That's all going down in the groundwater, the same groundwater agency that I called and every other California agency that I keep calling does absolutely nothing. We have the guy on film lighting 3 fires in 1 week. They do nothing. They don't even arrest the guy. There's a 26-inch gas main below where they're lighting these fires. If it ever goes off from a leak, because it's a huge gas line and we're an earthquake area, it's going to kill everybody for miles around. I've called the gas company. I've called the railroads. I've called the city. I've called the health department. I've called the water department. I've called the groundwater pollution people. Anybody you can think of, nobody does anything. It is so disgusting what's happening, and it's ruining our area. Who's going to do business down there?
Well, what's the old saying? You don't judge the man, you judge the deed. And in California, it seems like they think the opposite is true. Where if it's the homeless doing it, they can get away with murder. If it's a middle-class taxpayer doing it, they'll treat you like Jack the Ripper. It's a hell of a way to run a state. All right, sir, I'm out of time. I got to run, but thank you for the call.